I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Geno TV and Channel 99. With us this morning is Michael Cozort, the superintendent of the Nantucket Public Schools. Michael, welcome. Nice to have you back again.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
It's been a while. We were just talking before we started taping about how long you'd been here, and I think I was shocked. What did you say, 7 years?
Yeah, I'm not sure shocked which way, but this is my 7th year, and it's been wonderful. Everything that we hoped it would be, and certainly lots of challenges, but I think lots of progress too.
We've got several things to talk about today.
We do.
The first one is the new middle school, you're calling it?
We have a renovation to the middle school. We've added a 6th grade wing, and that's the smaller project, and then the larger new building will be an intermediate school for grades 3, 4, 5.
So we're going to have elementary, intermediate, middle.
Exactly, and then high school. That's right. We're spreading.
That sounds very bureaucratic.
We're spreading the campus out.
So how's that was done? That was completed?
The project, the renovation of the middle school is just being completed now. We had hoped very aggressive schedule to have it ready for the start of school. We're about a couple weeks behind that, but quite honestly, it's ahead of where I expected we would be. So I think in another week, the 6th graders take ownership of that wing. The other project, the larger project, is due for completion.
The yellow Hulk?
Yes, the yellow is going away.
It is.
And once you get the exterior siding and the shingles on the roof, I think it'll bring the vision down a little bit. That is scheduled to be completed in June for an opening in September of 17.
So it's moving on schedule.
That is on schedule, probably a little bit ahead of schedule right now, but you don't get too excited about those sorts of things until you get closer.
Right. In the meantime, it must be pretty crowded in the elementary.
It is. That school was originally built, I think, for 400, expanded for 500, and now serves about 720 students. So that's going to be a much needed relief for certainly for just the numbers, but also for the programming that you want to do in both.
How many kids will be in the new school?
Probably about 350, I would say.
So the old elementary school will be back to its original capacity, basically.
Exactly. It will be a pre-K to 2. It'll be a little bit smaller, but if we expand the universal preschool someday, which of course the whole country is talking about, then it would be back up to that original 400.
How many students do you have this year?
We have almost 1,600.
What was it when you started 7 years ago?
Well, that's a funny story because I remember when I was interviewing, looking at the numbers which had gone down for 3 straight years, of course, in the recession.
Right.
And I remembered telling my wife, well, at least I won't have to build a new school. And so since I've arrived, and I've always joked, that's not to my credit or blame, we've gone up from about 1,275 to 1,600.
Almost a 25% increase, basically. Yeah.
I mean, it's just been remarkable. This year, this September, for the first September, we have flatlined a little bit from last June. Our official numbers don't come into play until October 1st. That's what the state Department of Education.
X date.
Yeah, they let things sort of sift out and then use an October 1. So that will be a better comparison number. But right now, it looks like we're about where we were at the end of June, which is actually, I think, much needed relief to have that trajectory slow down a little bit.
How many of those students now are English as a second language student?
You know, We have probably 260.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when I arrived, we had about 100, and so we've had remarkable growth. That ELL number, though, is deceiving because not all foreign-speaking children are ELL students.
Right.
Some are bilingual and have strong enough English skills
That they don't count in that
that
number.
they don't count in that number, but culturally they have some things that are certainly different.
How have the teachers adapted to these challenges? What have they had to do to?
The first thing that we've done is a lot of training. The Department of Education requires, used to be called category training, now it's
Just
sheltered
the State Department of Education?
English
Yeah.
and immersion. So we have trained well over 100 teachers and administrators in how to support English language learners.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. I think there's also, though, attitude, mindset, and understanding of the cultural differences, because some cultures are more involved, I won't say invested, but more involved in their children's education, whereas other cultures leave it to
The schools.
the schools, and that is where true of where they came from.
Right.
So it's an interesting blend, and both challenges and opportunities.
How has it changed the dynamic among the students themselves in a particular grade? Say if 15 or 20% of the kids are ESL kids,
Yeah.
which is possible, and in some grades probably.
That's an interesting question, and I would say that when you are among a 1 to 5% population, I think you're forced to assimilate faster. When you become part of a 20%, then you are able to recreate, pockets of your culture both in
Right.
the community and in the school, and that certainly has advantages. One example that I think of, years ago, a lot of our children learned because they were watching TV in English. That was the only option.
Right.
Nowadays, you can watch in your native language, which is wonderful for them, for our children, but maybe slows the assimilation aspect. So it's an interesting dynamic. But I often give our soccer team, our boys' soccer team, as an example because it's like watching the United Nations. We have students
And
from all
soccer
over
is
the
not a
world.
second language for some of those kids.
Well, that's it. It's those kids have a universal language and a universal goal, and it works. So that's a great lesson for us in the classroom. It can work.
What are some of the other challenges that the schools are facing?
I think that beyond the numbers and expanding programs, we need to expand and have been expanding programs for our children with special needs, because we can't send them to a day program in a nearby school district as you can on the in America. And so we need to create programs within our schools, and we're doing that. I think we do a good job for our advanced placement students in the high school. I think we have small class sizes and rigorous classes, but I think we can do a better job grades 1 through 8 with providing for our advanced students. And I think that's something we need to do better. We've talked about it. It's part of our strategic plan and important because we have to serve all children and be all things for all kids, being an island school.
Sometimes it's said that the kids in the middle get the short end of the stick. Do you think that's true? And if so, how do you try to address that? You have either the ones who are at the top and advanced placement and special programs, and the ones who do have some sort of challenge, whether it be physical or cultural or whatever.
I think most teachers and administrators would answer that by saying differentiation within a classroom. Teachers work hard to provide that differentiation, which may mean a more challenging novel as they're reading in class, or maybe an assignment that has stepped up the rigor a few paces for them. But really, I think that our students in the middle are probably being fairly well served, and I think that it sometimes is that advanced group that we've got to pull out the stops for.